The gate area at Redwood Regional International Airport was quiet, the kind of quiet that always comes right before chaos. Gate agent Maribel Torres was scanning the last of the pre-boarding group when a woman in a cream-colored blazer, oversized sunglasses pushed up into her hair, and a rolling suitcase the size of a small refrigerator marched straight past the line, straight past the stanchions, and planted herself at the podium like she owned it. "I need to board now," the woman said. "I'm Group A. Actually, I'm better than Group A. I'm a Diamond Elite Platinum member of my community." Maribel blinked. "Ma'am, this line is for pre-boarding. Can I see your boarding pass?" The woman smiled the tight, condescending smile of someone who had never once in her life been told no and intended to keep it that way. "I don't have one yet. But I will. I always get one. Do you know who I am?" Somewhere behind her, 31 passengers who had paid extra for priority boarding groaned in unison. A toddler started crying. A flight attendant near the jet bridge door quietly reached for her radio. Nobody in that gate area knew it yet, but in the next 48 hours, this woman's name would become a legend, whispered by flight crews, laughed about by baggage handlers, and immortalized forever in one very satisfying security escort caught on 3 different phone cameras. This is her story. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is the place where we dive into the wildest, most unbelievable stories of entitlement meeting consequences, and today's story might be one of the best ones yet, because it takes place somewhere you really don't want to test your luck, an airport. We're talking fake priority boarding, missing luggage, a very patient gate agent, hidden security footage, and a public meltdown so spectacular that an entire airport terminal stopped to watch. Stick around till the end, because the poetic justice in this one is chef's kiss. Let's get into it. Before we get back to that gate, let's rewind about 3 weeks. Redwood Regional wasn't one of those sprawling mega-hubs with 5 terminals and a monorail. It was a mid-sized regional airport, the kind where the same baggage handlers, gate agents, and TSA officers saw each other every single day and actually knew each other's names. It had one decent coffee shop, a bookstore that never seemed to sell any books, and a bank of rocking chairs by Gate 14 that everybody secretly loved. Maribel Torres had worked the gates at Redwood Regional for 6 years. She was the kind of employee airports don't talk about enough, unfailingly polite, quick on her feet, and somehow able to calm down even the most stressed-out travelers with nothing but a steady voice and a genuine smile. Delayed flights, missed connections, crying babies, nervous first-time flyers, Maribel handled it all with the same calm patience. She loved her job, honestly. She loved watching families reunite at the arrivals gate, loved the little kids who pressed their faces to the window to watch planes take off, loved the quiet hum of a terminal running exactly the way it was supposed to. Her regular travelers loved her too. Frequent flyers on the morning commuter routes knew her by name. She kept butterscotch candies in her podium drawer for nervous flyers and remembered which regulars liked window seats and which ones got airsick without an aisle. It was, by every measure, a peaceful, well-oiled little corner of the world. Which is exactly why nobody was prepared for Deborah Kessler. Deborah Kessler was, by her own description, a very important woman. Back home, she was president of the Homeowners Association for Willowbrook Estates, a title she treated with the gravity of a small nation's head of state. She had built her entire identity around rules, hierarchies, and her own self-appointed authority. She fined neighbors for mailboxes that were the wrong shade of black. She once sent a certified letter over a garden gnome she deemed aesthetically non-compliant. She had, at last count, 3 restraining orders filed against her by exhausted neighbors, though of course, in her own telling, those were simply misunderstandings by jealous, small-minded people. Deborah flew constantly, usually to visit her sister, attend HOA conferences, yes, those exist, and yes, she was a keynote speaker, or simply to remind flight crews that she deserved better treatment than everyone around her. She had a very particular philosophy about air travel: rules were for other people. She didn't wait in lines. She didn't listen to boarding announcements. She believed, with the unshakable confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences, that if she simply acted important enough, loud enough, and confident enough, the world would bend around her. At Willowbrook Estates, that philosophy had worked for years. Neighbors folded rather than deal with her. The HOA board rubber-stamped her demands because arguing with Deborah took more energy than anyone had to spare. But an HOA board and an airport gate agent are very different opponents. Maribel didn't know it yet, but she was about to become the first person in a long time who wouldn't fold. It started small, the way these things always do. Deborah's first flight of her trip was a short regional hop to visit her sister for a leadership retreat she was hosting for fellow HOA presidents. Yes, that's a real thing she organized. She showed up 40 minutes before boarding, marched to the front of the line during general boarding, and announced that she needed to board immediately because she had connections to make and simply didn't have time to wait. Maribel checked her ticket. Group C, middle seat, row 28. Ma'am, we're still boarding Group A. I'll call your group shortly. I don't do Group C, Deborah said, as if group assignments were a personal insult. Surely there's been some mistake. Upgrade me. I'm sorry, upgrades aren't something I can just. Do you know how much money people like me bring to this airline? I fly constantly. Maribel kept her voice level. I understand, ma'am, but boarding groups apply to everyone. I'll call your group when it's time. Deborah huffed loudly enough for the whole gate area to hear, spun on her heel, and stormed back to her seat, but not before muttering, just loud enough to be heard, this airport clearly doesn't understand customer service. It was annoying. Mildly disruptive. The kind of thing gate agents deal with weekly. Nobody expected it to escalate into what came next. Over the following week, strange things started happening around the gate area and the small business lounge attached to it. A businessman's charging cable disappeared from an outlet bank while he stepped away to use the restroom. A woman's designer sunglasses vanished from the top of her carry-on at the coffee shop. An elderly man's neck pillow, a specific, expensive medical-grade one his doctor had recommended, went missing from his seat while he dozed during a delay. Then things got bolder. A whole tray of pastries disappeared from the airline's complimentary snack cart. A stack of unclaimed priority boarding passes, printed and waiting at an empty podium during a shift change, vanished entirely, only for several confused, ticketless passengers to later be seen breezing through priority lines with passes that didn't match their names. At first, staff chalked it up to ordinary bad luck. Busy airports have petty theft all the time. But the pattern was strange. Nothing was ever taken from bags. It was always small, high-value items left in plain sight, taken in the blink of an eye, always during the gate area's busiest, most chaotic boarding windows. And oddly, every single incident happened on a day Deborah Kessler was flying. Maribel didn't want to jump to conclusions. She'd been doing this job long enough to know that coincidences happen. But when the neck pillow incident hit, an elderly regular flyer named Harold, who Maribel adored, in visible distress because his doctor-recommended pillow was gone, something in her decided enough was enough. She brought her concerns to the airport security office. Airport security didn't take reports of a missing snack cart lightly, not because pastries are valuable, but because unexplained disappearances near secure gate areas are always worth investigating. Add in a pattern spanning multiple passengers and multiple days, and it became a real case. Security Supervisor Dana Reyes pulled up the gate area's CCTV archive and started cross-referencing timestamps. Sure enough, a woman matching Deborah's description appeared in the background of nearly every incident, usually walking past just seconds before the item disappeared, usually positioned in a way that blocked the camera's clearest angle. She's good, Dana admitted, squinting at grainy footage of Deborah accidentally bumping into a cart, angling her body just enough to block the direct sightline. But she's not that good. They set up a soft trap. A test, nothing dramatic, nothing that would tip Deborah off. On her next scheduled flight, booked, this time, for an actual HOA regional leadership summit, because apparently that circuit was thriving. Staff placed a set of premium wireless earbuds, deliberately unattended, deliberately tempting, on an empty seat near the gate podium, angled perfectly within a repositioned camera's field of view. A second hidden camera covered the blind spot Deborah always used. Maribel, meanwhile, quietly briefed the gate staff on shift that day. Everyone knew what to watch for. Everyone knew to stay calm, document everything, and let security handle it once the moment came. They didn't have to wait long. Deborah arrived at the gate that morning in full form, sunglasses on her head, blazer sharp, rolling suitcase clipping the ankles of at least 2 unsuspecting travelers on her way in. She scanned the gate area the way a predator scans a field, and her eyes landed on the earbuds sitting innocently on the empty seat. She didn't hesitate. In one smooth motion, the same practiced, casual sweep the cameras had caught on grainy footage a dozen times before, she scooped the earbuds off the seat and slid them into her blazer pocket without breaking stride, all while loudly informing a nearby passenger that, some people just leave their belongings everywhere, it's a security risk, honestly. From 2 angles, security had it all, clean, clear, unmistakable. Dana radioed it in immediately, "We've got her." Confirmed. But they didn't move on her right away. They let her get comfortable. They let her walk right up to the boarding podium for what came next, because Deborah wasn't just about to be caught for theft. She was about to try her biggest move yet. Boarding for Deborah's flight opened. Group A was called. Deborah didn't even wait for her actual group, she marched straight to the podium, phone in hand, no boarding pass visible. "I need priority boarding," she announced to Maribel, loud enough for the whole gate area to hear. "I'm a VIP. I organize leadership retreats. I don't wait in lines." "Ma'am, I need to see your boarding pass," Maribel said calmly. "I don't have one. I'm telling you, just let me through. This is embarrassing for both of us." A murmur rippled through the waiting passengers. Phones started quietly coming up, the universal signal that something was about to go viral. "I can't board you without a ticket," Maribel said, her voice steady, professional, unshaken. "If you'd like to speak with a supervisor about purchasing a seat, I'm happy to call one over. I don't need to purchase anything. Do you understand who I am? I run an entire community. People fear me." A man in line snorted audibly. Someone in the back muttered, "Not here, lady," which got a ripple of laughter. That was when Dana and 2 uniformed security officers stepped up behind Deborah, right on cue. "Ma'am," Dana said, "we need you to step aside. We have some questions about an item in your possession." Deborah's confidence flickered for exactly 1 second before snapping right back into outrage. "Excuse me. I have done nothing wrong. This is discrimination. I want a supervisor. I want your names. I want." "The wireless earbuds in your blazer pocket," Dana said, calm as still water. "The ones you took off the seat by gate C14 4 minutes ago. We have it on camera. Twice." The entire gate area went silent, then erupted into a low wave of gasps and stifled laughter. A teenager near the window openly started filming, narrating under his breath, "Oh my God, no she did not." Deborah's face went through an entire weather system, shock, denial, fury, and finally a kind of wounded, theatrical indignation. "I was going to turn those in. I was being a good Samaritan." "Then you won't mind coming with us to sort it out," Dana said. Deborah did not go quietly. She spun back toward the gate podium, jabbing a finger at Maribel. "This is her fault. She's been targeting me this entire trip. Discrimination against successful women, I'm reporting this airline, I'm reporting her by name, I know corporate lawyers, I will end her career." She whipped out her phone and started dialing, loudly announcing she was calling the airline's corporate headquarters, and the news, and, bizarrely, my HOA board, they need to know how I'm being treated. Passengers around the gate were now fully filming, several openly laughing, one woman calling out, "Ma'am, we all just watched you steal earbuds, please sit down." Deborah wasn't done. As security gently but firmly guided her by the elbow away from the podium, she twisted free for one last dramatic flourish, snatching a stack of boarding passes off the nearby printer stand and hurling them into the air like confetti, shouting, "You'll regret this. Nobody treats me like this and gets away with it." The papers fluttered down around her like the world's most anticlimactic ticker tape parade. It might have been the single most filmed moment of the entire year at Redwood Regional. Here's the part that made this story legendary. As security walked Deborah, still shouting, still threatening lawsuits nobody believed she'd actually file, past the far end of the gate area, a large group of women near gate 16 stood up, phones already raised, whispering furiously to each other. They weren't random travelers. They were the attendees of Deborah's own Regional HOA Leadership Summit, a group of about 15 HOA board members from neighboring communities, all flying in for the very retreat Deborah was hosting. Several of them had personally clashed with Deborah before, at prior conferences, over her habit of hijacking meetings and steamrolling other boards' input. One of them, a sharp-eyed woman named Priya who ran her own HOA 2 towns over, stepped forward with her phone still recording. "Deborah? Are you being arrested?" "I am not being arrested, I am being harassed." "You stole earbuds," Priya said, deadpan, loud enough for the whole cluster of HOA presidents to hear clearly. "At an airport. In front of everyone." The murmurs among the HOA group spread like wildfire, disbelief, then muffled laughter, then a few not-so-quiet comments about, "Of course, sounds about right," and, "Remember what she did at the Willowbrook vote." By the time security had Deborah past the checkpoint and into a side office, her entire leadership summit, the retreat she was supposedly the star speaker for, had already begun quietly reorganizing itself without her, phones buzzing with a group chat titled, unofficially, "Emergency Meeting, No Deborah." She hadn't just been caught stealing. She'd been caught stealing in front of the exact audience whose respect she cared about most, and lost it, live, in real time, on camera. The airport followed its standard procedure. Deborah was cited for petty theft, banned from the airline for a set period, and, because of the confrontation and the flung boarding passes, issued a formal trespass warning from airport property pending review. But the real consequences played out somewhere far more painful for her own community. Word travels fast among HOA circles, it turns out, faster than Deborah probably ever imagined. Within days, clips of the confrontation had circulated through group chats, community Facebook pages, and eventually a regional homeowners newsletter that, in a delicious twist, ran a small blurb titled "Airport Etiquette," a cautionary tale, without naming names but clearly, unmistakably about her. Back at Willowbrook Estates, neighbors who'd spent years quietly enduring Deborah's fines and letters and threats finally felt emboldened. A recall petition that had stalled for months suddenly gathered enough signatures in a single week. At the next board meeting, Deborah showed up expecting her usual unchallenged authority, and instead found a packed room, a formal vote, and her own resignation basically demanded on the spot. Maribel, for her part, went right back to work the next morning like nothing had happened, because to her, it hadn't, not really. She checked in nervous first-time flyers. She handed Harold a fresh neck pillow the airline comped him after the incident. She called boarding groups in order, waited patiently through the occasional grumbling passenger, and kept the gate running the way it always had. A few days later, a small gift basket arrived at the gate podium, no note, no name, just a card that read, "Thank you for not folding." Nobody ever confirmed who sent it, though a few coworkers had their suspicions about a certain group of HOA presidents from Gate 16. Here's the thing about people like Deborah Kessler. Entitlement works, for a while, because most people are conflict-averse. Most people would rather let a rule get bent than deal with the confrontation of enforcing it. That's exactly how someone like Deborah gets away with running an entire neighborhood like a personal kingdom for years. But some places simply don't bend. Airports are built on precise systems for a reason: boarding groups, ticketing, security protocols, not to inconvenience people, but because those systems keep everyone moving safely and fairly. And the people who enforce those systems, the Maribels of the world, often don't get nearly enough credit for how much patience and quiet strength it takes to hold a line against someone determined to steamroll it. Deborah's real downfall wasn't the theft, and it wasn't even getting caught. It was believing, right up until the very last second, that her confidence alone entitled her to skip every line, literal and figurative, that everyone else had to wade in. When that belief finally collided with people who simply refused to fold, there was nowhere left for her bluster to go. The truth is, real authority isn't something you announce. It's something you earn, and it can be lost a lot faster than it's built, especially when the people who once tolerated you finally stop being afraid to speak up. So that's the story of the HOA Karen who tried to skip the line one too many times, and ended up escorted out by security while her own community watched it happen live. Have you ever seen someone try to pull rank at an airport, demanding special treatment they clearly didn't earn? Or maybe you've dealt with your own real-life Deborah back home, the neighbor who thinks the rules simply don't apply to them. Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one, and honestly, some of your stories are even wilder than this. If you enjoyed this one, hit like, subscribe for more karma stories, and I'll see you in the next video.